This is Home Construction, and here's your hosts, Terry Cannell-Beck and Randy Blake.
That's right. Good morning, Randy.
Morning, Terry, and everybody out there.
That's it. Happy Saturday.
Yes, it is.
So, welcome to the show. All about home construction here on WATA. Thanks for listening to us. Thanks for all those on the podcast as well. Randy, we're still in the top 5 of general contractor related podcasts. So
good.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. We try. So, again, thanks for everyone for doing that, sharing that, and thanks to all of our listeners on WATA. And, of course, you can go back and listen too. So, there we go. Got all that out of the way. What's going on, man?
Just working my life away.
It was about time.
Well, yeah, you know, a lot more paperwork now than it used to be.
Isn't that crazy?
You know, it still continues with this flood.
Right. I mean, it's crazy. Like, especially not just the construction, but the infrastructure world too. Right. There's lots of things that are still not back to normal, and lots of work still going on in all sorts of areas. So. And you were mentioning off the air more. I guess it's been long enough. People are starting to get insurance and FEMA stuff back, where they're starting to really look at starting to kick the tires and figure out how to repair. I guess
I've had people, call me and tell me that FEMA is contacting them again.
Good.
You know, so maybe some changes will happen to help people. But you need to, if you got a house that's been flooded out and you got to have repairs, I guess first off you need to go to the county and see about the flood map.
Right.
You know, because I had a discussion with a gentleman this week about it. And what the county's telling people, they want them to raise their houses 4 foot in these areas.
Right.
Now, if you can't afford to fix it anyhow, how are you going to afford
to raise it too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I guess can the county require that? I mean, because that would be a big requirement.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to try to find out, because the thing that bothers me is here at Walmart got flooded out, Bank of America got flooded out, Lowe's got flooded out, but then those trailers behind Walmart got flooded out.
They're gone now.
And they're gone.
Yeah.
But the businesses were able to continue on.
Yeah.
So I'd like to find out. I don't know if I'll ever find the answer, but I'm going to try to look for it.
Sure. Well, it does make you wonder, like, what makes the difference in the commercial versus residential side of things.
Correct. And because there's a lot, there's a little house right there on the corner that's going to be, it's already tore down, it's gone. I mean, it was the dilapidated house anyway. Yeah. But the point of it is it was somebody's home.
Right. Well, that's the thing, and when we live in a place like this, it's like, especially single-family housing, there's not enough of it around.
No, there's not.
It's a lot of student stuff, but there's not a lot of single-family.
But I also talked to my engineer this last week, and it's like he said, on new construction, there's not a foundation that they can't design that wouldn't hold the flood.
Right.
But the big thing is don't mean to insult all you college-educated people out there, but the massive flood that we just had has cleaned all the trees and the creeks and
it really is,
and all the junk. So, we're never going to get a rain in my lifetime. I hope not.
Right.
That exceeds this.
Yep.
But the floods aren't going to happen because the creeks and the river is already to the width to handle the load that happened.
Well, I would agree with that. I mean, because you can go down in. I mean, Valley Cruces, you head over towards Broadstone, and for those that like going towards Banner Elk from Boone, that whole section of river looks different now. I mean, there's, and that's just like, I mean, that's just to me the coolest example. But yeah, how many? I mean, we've got river and streams that have changed course. That's
yes, we have.
And so you're right. Like it's basically went through there and plowed out all the riverbank, all the stuff on the banks, deeper spots now. It's
deeper and shallow.
Right.
But my thing is, I was told by the elders when the 40 flood come, the 40 flood took the bridges down because of haystacks and trees. Okay.
Yep.
Well, here we had a few bridges go down, but they were homeowner bridges.
Right.
But if you can't keep the creeks clean and the trees out of it, what are you creating?
It's just going to be a big dam, right?
Yeah, and so when a tree falls in the creek, the EPA won't allow you to get that. You can get that tree out if you can do it by hand, or you can reach equipment to the side of the creek, but you can't reach across the creek and can't reach into the creek to get it without taking a fine.
Right.
So essentially, the laws are causing us, taxpayers and homeowners, a lot of trouble. Now, my home's up enough that it's not happening.
Right. But I know what you mean. Yeah.
And you know the river construction, these creek constructions going on where you've seen them work around and stuff. And it's like the state of North Carolina told me that they'd come help us on our creek because it flooded our hayfield.
Right.
But by them helping you take care of your hayfield, they're demanding that you give 30 feet of your field in the trees. All right? And I'm a hunter. I'm a fisherman. And I know that cold water lets trout live.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I let your fishes. But the point of it is, if you can't get that residue out of there, the junk,
Right.
or the man up the road that dumps his trash in the creek, comes on down there and creates
Gets
a dam.
tangled in it.
Not necessarily a dam, but think about this: you put a stick in the creek and the water's flowing. What happens? It starts a little backup right there on that stick. Okay, you don't know it's a backup, but if you take a tree that's 30 inches across, that's a big backup.
Yeah. Well, and that's I hadn't thought about that being a positive thing, but you're right. It has cleaned out a lot of debris, if you will, natural or unnatural.
Well, behind Valacruz's school.
Yep.
That's Dutch Creek.
Right.
That used to take a big sweep behind it, and when I was a kid, I put those hayfields up. All right. I never remember it flooding to the extreme that it does now.
Yeah.
But when they come in and put an S in it, so they can control the flow, now it backs up.
It floods there.
And you know, the corn maze over there got nearly wiped out because now I have seen the water over that bottom.
Right.
Okay, even in the old days. But it's happened more in the past couple of years than it has in my lifetime.
Right. Well, that's the thing. You know, the old school building there, a lot of the flood wasn't coming from. Well, really, none of the water was ever coming from the river like you expect.
No,
it was all coming from Dutch Creek.
That's right. And and I blame it on the curves that they put in that creek to control the flow. They're I know we'll probably get somebody give me a hard time, but you know what? There was never a canal there,
right?
And they've designed it as a canal, and I agree with that.
Right.
But the point of it is, they planted trees along the edges, and if they don't plant the right trees, they grow up. The water kills them.
Yeah. Then
they fall over.
Right. No, you're right on that. Totally right. So.
And that's just a redneck. I don't have a college degree in nothing.
Well, I mean, it all goes to just experiencing and understanding. I mean, water. You don't have to be any kind of engineer to understand that water is going to take the shortest path it can.
Yeah, just like electricity.
Right. They want to take the shortest path, and
water cuts.
Yep. Yeah, I saw a really cool video, just talking about the science of water, where it was a model, but it showed the water in a dam and how when you put a dam in place, you know, the water is going over it, and at the top it looks like it's all flowing the same essentially, right?
Yeah.
But how the undercuts, and then they had sand in the bottom of this model, and how the sand, it was just cool to watch the sand shift to the dam and then up over the dam, and how even below it, that dam affects the water down below the
Correct.
dam, you know.
To give you an idea, you know, North Carolina used to have in Pamlico Sound 2 entrances. All right, now that was back in the 1600s.
Around Duck and stuff.
Yeah, and the floods, you know, the hurricanes and stuff have closed up one end. You know, if you read about Blackbeard the pirate, that's how he got in Pamlico Sound, because the upper entrance. And they couldn't get to him, so while they're fiddling around, he's sneaking out.
Right. Yeah.
But because of ocean, you know, currents and stuff like that, people's put breakwall dams in and stuff like that. At one time, Sunset Beach was the fastest growing beach in North Carolina.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because the sand residue that's coming down from Virginia and places like that.
Yeah. There's a place around Duck, just north of Duck. I guess that would still be considered Duck there on the Outer Banks. That, like, so in the Currituck Sound there, at one point it was almost freshwater. Like, they had bass living in it. It was brackish still, but it was fresh enough that bass were living in there. And then, I mean, that's the whole point of the Outer Banks, geologically, right? Is they shift. That's what protects the mainland so much.
Yeah.
But there was a point that you're right there that now it's all landlocked essentially through there. But there was a point where all of up above Duck that shifted every storm. So there'd be an opening and it'd be closed and it'd be open and closed. So yeah, I mean it's.
Now it's permanently closed till we get a hurricane that will open it back up.
But the man-made, I mean, we'll close it back up now because we got a road going across.
And
that's the thing. Like, you'll never, the Outer Banks, and it's the same with any river, right? Like, you'll always be fighting it.
Correct, because Mother Nature does what she wants.
Yep. So.
And
anyway,
I've. On some, like, big rains, when we had the 12-inch rain,
mm-hmm.
I went down to Ben Ward's dam and looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
It come up and got in the river. And I'd hate to see what it done with this one if it'd been there, or the dam at Hound Ears.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm curious, too. I mean, this is a little different, off topic, but speaking of just the changing of the river, I'm curious, like, all of these, when you go southwestern from us, North Carolina, and into Tennessee, all of the whitewater rapids and, outfitters and stuff. I'm curious how different this year is going to be in terms of that, because it's changed everything.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same path that they've taken for the last.
Well, the river now's wider.
Right.
All right. So if it's wider, that means it's shallower.
Yeah.
And that's something we're going to have to see in the next rains what happened.
Yep. Well, maybe let's go whitewater rafting in the meantime. We'll take a break. Take a break. We'll be right back. Get into our topic right after this. Are you looking for a sawmill dealership that can provide you with the quality equipment you need to get the job done? Look no further than Blue Ridge Sawmills. We offer the full line of Hudson sawmills and sawmilling equipment, from portable sawmills to skidding winches. At Blue Ridge Sawmills, we understand that every project is different, which is why we offer a wide range of sawmilling services. We can help you from everything from finding the right mill for your farm, hobby, or even your business. We also offer a variety of sawmilling supplies, such as blades and debarkers, so you can get everything you need in one place. If you're looking for a sawmill dealership that can provide you with the quality equipment and the service you need, then come to Blue Ridge Sawmills. We're here to help you get the job done. Call or visit our Cana, Virginia store at 276-755-3833 or our Asheboro, North Carolina location at 336-964-8304. That's right. All about home construction here on WAETA. Thanks for listening to us. Thanks for the podcast listeners as well. Give us a call, 828-262-1567. Also, of course, Randy, a lot of people just ask us things during the week, and we love that too.
Yep.
We have the Facebook page, All About Home Construction, that people get in touch with us through, as well as, email, allabouthomeconstruction@gmail.com.
Well, I have to give Terry a big hand over that. He takes care of that side.
It's the fun part of life. All right. Well, we could talk rivers all day. It's fun. But you, this last week, had been doing some research and some education, I guess you would say, on some pretty cool construction techniques now.
Yeah. This last week, you've heard me talk about North Carolina requires us contractors so many hours a year and to keep our license. And this last week, my class was on panelization of homes.
Sweet.
Prefab. All right. But there's different levels of prefab.
Well, that's what I was curious, and when you were talking to me about it, my brain automatically went to, like, superior walls, because we've talked about that before on the show years ago, had some guests on for it, but this is more than just a foundation. This is the entire house.
Correct. Superior Walls is a foundation company. They don't have anything to do with wood. Excuse me. And But what this class was on was panelized homes, okay, where you send the company your plans, and they build your walls, okay? They build your floor system. They'll even build your roof system, all right? And they build it to the specifications of North Carolina.
Right.
So the one thing I did learn about in that class is make sure that whoever draws your house draws it and transfer the loads to the ground.
Okay.
You know, we've talked about loads in the past.
Right.
Path for a load of, make sure your house is supported in the center, your load-bearing walls and stuff like that.
Right.
That if you do not have your path to the loads, the panelization company will not build your home.
Okay.
So just because you draw a house on a CAD system doesn't mean you have the loads figured out.
Sure. So in other words, it still has to be engineered.
No, not necessarily.
Okay. Well, okay.
But if your draftsman can draw, a lot of draftsmen does the math for your to transfer your loads. Okay. And that was actually 3 years ago was a class we had on how to solve the loads in your house. And have you ever been in an old house where the baseboard's a half inch?
Me
off the
doing
floor?
the floors, yeah.
Yeah. So,
where you got a 4-inch baseboard that's above the wood, and then on the other side you better not put a piece of toe mold because it's going to cover up the baseboard. Yeah, I've seen that.
Well, that's because the loads wasn't transferred all the way to the ground.
Yeah.
Or another scenario could be that the floor joists were too long for the load above it.
That's what I think a lot of times, especially in the older houses, we see this a lot.
And because of the deflection.
Yep.
That causes it. But actually, that's the roof holding up your walls in your house from your floor system.
Right.
So somebody didn't put enough nails in the plate to hold it. Or like I said, somebody did not put an extra pad in there.
Right.
Or it went too long.
Right.
There was a house here in Boone that we went in because the guy's house bounced. Boing, boing, boing. This house is like 40 foot long, had one pier in the middle of the house.
Yeah.
And the rest was a girder that went out, and the girder was whitewood. It wasn't wasn't LVLs or an I-beam or anything, so we had to go back in and look at his house to figure out where the loads was from the walls that came from all the way from the second floor to the first floor, all the way to the crawl space to put the pads in. And that was the first time I ever met Stan Hanna, the building inspector. And he was actually in a state codes class. And I said, I want to pour this, but I want you to come look at it. He said, just take a picture, Randy. And then I'm going, no, I'd rather you come look at it because I've never seen a house like this in all my life.
Right.
And he came out and he spent, well, he was a little late for his class. He spent about an hour out there, and he said, yeah, I understand why you wanted me to come out.
Yeah.
You know, because once I started to work on that girder, now it was my responsibility down the road.
Right.
Not the original builder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about this panelization. So essentially, it's a modern building technique, I guess you'd say, where the walls, the components, the structural components, walls, whatever, are made off-site in some kind of factory.
They're in a factory.
And then brought in, and then a contractor like you just basically puts them together.
Correct.
That's it in a nutshell.
That's it. And the difference is, you asked the question besides panelization, modular, and stuff like that.
Right.
And prefab. And but they take the studs, they put them in a machine that holds the studs, and basically they're computer nailed. It does take manpower to line everything up.
Right.
And that's what's the thing. Those panels are within a 1/16 of an inch.
That's cool.
And then when all the wood's in line, they're all nailed on. Then they come in and put the sheeting on top of it.
See, that to me, that's the cool part. Like it's coming. It's not just the framing; it's coming sheeted. I mean, in other words, it's in terms of the wall. You're ready to put up your insulation and siding and move on.
Correct.
Once everything's together.
And you brought up a good point for the show. Well, let's go with superior walls because they can put the foundation in them one day. Well, an average 2,000 square foot house can be put together in 5 days.
That's awesome.
Starting off the plate on that house right there.
Right.
And so, and we also talked about when I built the steel houses of the cost of the steel
Right.
versus the cost of wood and versus the cost of labor. And to give you an idea, we bid on a house back in 2000, and the house plans out of steel was 19,000.
Right.
Okay, the house plan out of wood was 11,000.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody looked at it like, well, I'm paying $8,000 up front for a house that I shouldn't be.
Right.
But the point of it is, we could have built that same house out of steel in 3 weeks versus 12 weeks out of wood.
That's great. You're right.
And so we actually saved money on labor.
Well, that's what I'm thinking is like these panels, for one, like anytime you can build in a factory setting, right, there's less moving and there's less downtime, right? So in other words, you're going to put out more square foot in a factory than you will on a job site, right?
Correct.
But you're also just the way manufacturing works, right? I mean, it's essentially a factory, an assembly line of some type. It's going to be more efficient, and so you're going to have a lot less waste in your materials. You're going to have, again, everything's just going to be a lot more efficient. So on that end of things, right? I mean, that's the difference of, that's any manufacturing thing. I mean, think about it. Back in the day, you're making one shoe at a time. 150 years ago, and today you got a machine. You got a factory that's putting out 100 shoes at a time. It's doing that same thing now with building.
Well, and they can also, on these homes, and I showed you a picture of it with the plywood flooring, the sheeting already on the floor joists.
Yeah.
And there's 3 ways to go. You can go with standard framing, spruce, or you go with a truss, or you can go with an I-joist.
Yeah. So this is interesting. So, I mean, you can get those prefab, like, floor panels, like you said. Essentially, they arrive, you get them at the job site, you install them, right? And I guess you can use these for both stories, both ground level, and if you have it upstairs,
Correct.
You can use them both. And then I don't understand the open web, these, like, floor trusses. Like, what makes that different, I guess?
Well, regular framing, you have to design a path for everything.
Right.
Your duct work, your plumbing. Your plumber can drill through your regular framing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because biggest thing they're going to put through is a 4-inch pipe.
Right.
Your plumber knows the code on that, where he can put drill the holes.
Right.
And but when it comes to your duct system and your furnace system, a lot of houses are built too tight that they have to have 2 systems in them.
Right.
Because you can't transfer up and down and cross.
Mm-hmm.
With an open web floor truss, you can run your duct work, your plumbing. The only thing you worry about in that is now putting a fire break in it ever so many distance.
Right. Okay.
And your fire break doesn't have to be can be regular, can be 3/8 drywall.
Yeah. So if you're doing one of these panel systems, wouldn't it just be as easy? Because there shouldn't be a lot of cost difference in the two, I would think.
Yeah, there's a big difference between trusses and whitewood floor joists.
You even on a prefab?
Yeah.
Okay.
And because first off, the trusses and the I-joists are made in a factory,
Right.
in a jig and stuff, and so somebody's got to make them.
Fair.
The whitewood goes to the sawmill, sawed.
Okay.
And then it's put in a machine to draw the moisture out, and then it goes to the lumberyard. There you go. Then you have to assemble.
Right. Then put it together. Okay.
I'm looking at a picture here of I-joists that are being built in a jig, and it's got a scuttle hole in it,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be an elevator hole. It doesn't say
Right.
what it is.
Well, the I-joist floor, that's your wooden beams, like your it's not really OSB. I guess it could be OSB, but it's the laminated wood.
It is an oriented strand product,
Right.
but it's a lot tighter
Right.
density.
Right.
Looks similar, but the compression strength on it when it's manufactured. If you look at the I-joist from the end, if you cut one,
Right.
the OSB has a taper on each end.
Mm-hmm.
So when it goes into the 2x4, it is compressed and pushed into it with the glue.
Like essentially like a wedge, like a mortise and tenon. I mean, it's the same.
Any of this product
theory.
that's made like that, LVLs, Paralams, glue lams, the glue is hot when it goes together.
Right.
So it dries real fast.
Yep. And it's more of an epoxy than a glue anyway.
And see, you're limited on your floor joists probably to maybe 24, 28 feet length, but you have to have a wall hold them up somewhere.
Right.
And
with I-joists, you can go
up to
40 something, right?
40 some feet, yeah.
Okay.
And they'll make the depth up. The tallest floor truss you can get is 24 inches.
Okay.
And
well, you wouldn't really want to go any further. Larger.
Well, it depends on your span.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Makes sense. Well, if you get a house that's over 40 feet long without some kind of wall in it, it's a pretty big house.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll go right back. Are you ready to level up your home construction game? Obviously, you've subscribed to All About Home Construction. Now we would like to ask you for some support. You can be like Dave, Bill, and Skipper and help support All About Home Construction. The links are in the show notes. That's right, All About Home Construction here on WATA. Fun stuff. Talking a little bit about panelization in modern construction. There you go. That's a fun name for you. All right, so we talked a little bit about the flooring system. We can come back to that, but I'm really curious. So when you look at, Randy, the types of panelization construction, really, I guess there's 4 types, maybe 5, if it depends on how you look at it, right? You have the structural insulated panels, SIPs. Yep. You have, and again, this is more of the like Superior Walls we talked about, more of a foundation, but it's still considered a panel, right? You have the concrete, precast concrete panels. And then you have timber panels or like a steel panel, right? And that's why I'm saying, like, sometimes those are the same. And then but they come in an open or closed system. Mm-hmm. And so that's my question is, okay, so let's just break it down a little bit. Like, let's start with the timber, and I guess steel would be the same, just different products, right? But they're made put together essentially the same, right?
Now, when it comes to steel framing, there's a little different.
Okay.
Because in your wood system, you can use OSB on the outside. But it, like the one show we talking about, the zip panel, the OSB with the foam on it, mm-hmm. you would need that product to go on a steel house to break the thermal barrier between the outside and the steel. Gotcha. Because the steel will transfer that cold all the way to the inside.
Right. So on a wooden panel, when you get these panels, it's going to be essentially the studs and sheeting.
That's it, on the panelized system.
Right.
But
when you get a steel system, is it still going to have some kind of sheeting on it?
No, the steel we got
so you would have to put
never
it on.
did. We had to put it on. So we had to go to a new nail gun that would shoot.
So I guess, I know you like steel. You're not going to like me asking this, but in the panelization system, if speed was your option, like your goal, if you wanted to get this house done faster, it would be faster to get the wooden panels.
Yes, it would be,
because you're already one step of sheeting ahead.
The difference in steel and wood is that, like Dietrich has a floor joist that's 14 inches high.
Right.
It already has the punch outs for the plumbing and the heat and air ducts. Mm-hmm. Will span 33 feet.
Okay.
With a 1/4 inch deflection.
Okay.
So it takes a big wood member to travel 33 feet with that kind of deflection on it.
That's cool.
Like an I-joist that's 2 foot tall.
Right. So, okay, I guess when you're putting these panels together, like when you order these panels, it's not like you order lumber. I mean, like you're not going to order, okay, I need a 8-foot wall, and then I need a door. Like in other words, you're going to give them the plans, and they're going to set it up based exactly off of those plans. It's
Correct.
not, yeah. So it's not like I just grab something off the shelf, send it to you.
The guy that taught the class said his first panelized house he bought, he gave them the wrong side. He sent them the paperwork from the window company, mm-hmm. and the window companies had their rough openings, but,
right.
In which I've had this happen before too. And I take my plans, I build my house, then I got to turn around and change my hole because it's too small by 1/2 inch.
Right.
All right. Well, that's what he said. The biggest problem is with panelized homes is make sure you get your window and door opens correct.
Okay.
Because here you are, you're starting a house.
Mm-hmm.
You've already ordered your windows.
Right.
All right. And
you can't get.
They won't let you send your windows back. Yeah, they're not regular home windows. Aren't like vinyl windows where they make them in within 1/4 of an inch of what you need.
Yeah, yeah.
And but that's the thing with it. The panelized system. He said, make sure that you get your window and door openings correct. Okay. They'll have them cut out. The headers will be in. The headers will be insulated. Now they do not insulate the walls. These companies weren't doing it because if you insulate your walls, then you have to drill your holes for your wiring.
Right. So that's the difference then with in these systems, there are open systems and there are closed systems.
Correct.
So the open system would be like you're talking about, right? You get that flexibility of finishing them on site.
Difference is panelization over prefab.
Right.
Okay, because I'm looking at a picture here of a floor system.
Right.
All right, and the guy's got his hose out and he's blowing insulation into the floor system.
Right.
So if he's got to have his plumbing pipes already run in. Mm-hmm. All right, somewhere along that line, you got to glue all this together or solder all together, which I would never think they'd run copper; it'd be pegs.
Right.
But I was telling Terry, there's a roundhouse on 105. Okay, right down from it's a realtor's.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I helped build a lot of those houses. Actually, the first job I ever worked on second job, excuse me. I was 14. Was a Bartolo and Brady roundhouse. That's a little octagon with the big beams and stuff. And I thought it was quite nifty. And but you had to set that house with a crane. You had to have a crane on the job.
Right.
With a panelized system, you can do it with a manitois.
I didn't think of that. So like that's. I mean, I know I keep bringing up superior walls because that's what we've talked about the most in these similar systems. They're heavy concrete pieces. You got to put it in. So I hadn't thought about that end. You can do this without super large equipment, and so that's going to make things easier and faster too.
Correct. Yeah. When the steel houses now, we unloaded the houses by hand.
Right. That's cool.
And we had 2 hours to unload a tractor trailer.
Okay.
Well, there was 6 of us, and we done it in less than 2 hours.
Sure.
Because steel is lighter than wood.
Right.
All right. But one thing about a steel house over a wood house is if your ridge pole is 60 foot long, that's how your ridge pole comes.
Right.
You have to assemble it though, and it takes two pieces to create that to make it rigid. But on a wood house, on this panelized system, on these roof panels and everything, they all join together on that with the cuts and everything.
Right, right.
So that's the reason you have to have something to lift your panels up because they got the plywood on them already.
Sure. So they're gonna be a little heavy. To me, it's just cool because it's already coming in with pre-assembled and I guess you can go with a closed system, right? I mean, I'm sure it's going to cost more, but a system like you can go basically anything from what we said, the open system, essentially the bare minimum. I mean, if you can find a certain companies, they can come in and they'll even have the wiring and the windows in.
Correct. And,
but again, it's going to be on the higher end of costs.
Oh, big high end cost. This old house.
Yep.
The first time I ever seen a SIP panel, with the OSB on the outside with the foam inside.
Yep.
But they had the drywall on the inside already.
Right.
And all the windows is in it. And so they were setting a 40-foot wall that was already with the windows and doors in it on their foundation.
Right.
Now, that is quite costly, but there you go. You're building a whole house in 2 days.
Right. Well, it just sort of dawned on me as we're talking about this. We started the show where we were talking about the hurricane relief and rivers. Like, this would be a great, cost aside, and I get that, but this would be a great way to get people back in a house quick.
It would be.
I mean, if cost is not an issue, let's just hypothetically, right? Cost isn't an issue. You could build what would be considered a stick-built house. If you had the money and went with a closed system, you could be in that house in a month or so.
Yeah, well, less than a month.
I mean, yeah. Like,
well, I mean, if it takes you 5 days to build the house,
yeah.
then the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put your fascia boards on out of anything. That way, the roofer go ahead and get the roof on.
So 5 days to put a roof on, if you used because they make panelized systems for roofs, right?
Correct. That's
so,
right.
So 5 days to build it, 5 days to roof it. What? I mean, if you did bare minimum, I mean, this is
in
HGTV.
a month you could be in a house.
I mean, that's HGTV stuff. This is the stuff you don't like, Randy.
I know.
Houses can be built in 30 minutes now.
But actually, there's a competition that goes on every year on how fast they can build a house with cool. Zip panels. Because see, zip panels has the insulation. Mm-hmm. You got your drywall already on and everything, and it's totally remarkable. But I think the thing that scares people the most is the upfront cost, because they look at that upfront cost and they're going, wow, this is expensive.
Right.
But they don't turn around and look at the labor cost, because you're cutting down on labor.
Okay, so that's a huge one, right? So the cutting down on labor is going to not only speed up construction, but it's also it's more efficient. It's more so in sustainable wise, right?
Yeah.
Like it's more efficient because you're cutting down on labor, you're cutting down on materials waste. So you can get a house like this, and so it's. I know this isn't the buzzword like it was 10 years ago, but you got the LEED certified stuff.
Well, these houses will LEED.
Yeah.
And will be LEED certified because of the less. The biggest thing, I guess, on the LEED certification would be the disturbed ground around your house, because that has to come into it.
Right. But in terms of the building part itself, it's going to be a lot more sustainable.
Correct.
And to me, again, the reduced waste, and I'm still stuck on the speed part. I think that's the number one benefit, and that I'm looking at. Like, cool.
Well, the whole thing about the class is, all right, let's go to a housing development and let's build houses, and you got one framing crew, and eventually they start failing because they're breaking down by overexertion on what the job before.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back. The Boone VFW Post 7031 is looking at making improvements to their Veterans Memorial Wall, and you can help. Here's Chuck.
We could do engraved bricks to cover the memorial. It's in honor of the veterans who have served and some that have given their all for our country. And that's the one thing that we feel as the VFW that we can do to honor those who have come before and those who are even present today.
But Chuck, what do we have to do to participate?
You don't have to be a war veteran in order to be a part of this memorial. It's just that you served.
What is the cost?
That fee is only $50, but it's a lifetime investment.
If you would like to help participate by honoring a family member, a friend, or a loved one, you can contact the Boone VFW Post 7031 at 828-264-9570. They are on VFW Drive, just off of State Farm Road here in Boone. Thank you for all that have served. All about home construction. Again, thanks for listening to us. We appreciate you all. And in the top 5 on the podcasting networks list, whatever you want to call that. And we're happy about that. We appreciate that.
Just keep listening, people. We appreciate it.
And I love that you're sharing it with friends. And I know this is for the people who listen to the podcast. You can like it and subscribe and share it, and it boosts up the ratings too. And so we appreciate that. And then of course we appreciate all the listeners on WATA. Don't misunderstand. We appreciate you guys too. So
yeah, we are.
That's it.
The only reason you're here is because of local folks.
Hey, that's it. And that's what that's why we get up on a Saturday morning and get in here.
And we didn't even know we were listed.
Right. Oh yeah. No, it was a surprise. Hey, we just like to share. To me, what I love about the podcast side of this is the people listening on Saturday mornings. A lot of times we say stuff that will help them, and because before we were putting out the podcast, we'd get asked all the time, "What was it you said about blah 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 blah?" Right? And now it's recorded, so you can go back and listen to what we said about blah blah blah. So that's the cool part about that side too.
last year's class was on moisture.
Right.
All right. Don't let moisture destroy your company. Mm-hmm. And what they were talking about is not foundation leaks and stuff like that. They were talking about during your construction, taking the amount of time it takes you to get that house dried in. All right. In the wintertime, we had a lot of snow. Got rain. Well, supposedly.
Right.
And but you'll be framing a house, and it'll rain on you. Mm-hmm. So now automatically you got to start cutting holes in the floor so water drains down. Well, if you've got a basement down there, that water's going to settle on that concrete. Yep. And here you are framing the walls up and everything. And as this moisture evaporates, it gets back in the wood.
Stuck, yeah.
And it increases, and just like your flooring, it increases the moisture level.
Right. I mean, because we've all seen this, and you talked about how, you cover up a pile of lumber with a tarp, and it comes over the next day and it's frozen. Like all of that affects the wood, and I've always worried about that in terms of this is getting really nerdy in the moisture thing, right? But wood moves with moisture, shrinks,
correct.
Compresses.
And you said right there, when you put your tarp on it, now you're covering your wood to keep it dry.
Yep.
All right. The only problem with that is if you don't put your tarp under your wood, and the sun comes out,
you're baking it and trapping moisture in.
Yeah, it's like a pressure cooker.
Yeah. You're
distilling that moisture level into it, and that's what they were talking about. Is now you're building a house, and it's in rainy weather. Mm-hmm. And you're starting to get little black specks of mold that's coming on your frame.
Right.
All right. So you go ahead and put your dry your house in, put it in, and while you're drying your house in, the weather's not a controlled environment.
Right.
Okay. So to give you an idea, which you've heard me talk about Will's house several times, and when we started it rained every doggone day, and so here we are building the house. We're putting the drywall in. Taping the drywall, and we got the doors closed because it's cold weather.
Yep.
And it takes about 4 days for us to get the moisture out of the house with big dehumidifiers to dry the house back out.
Well, one other thing too that I've always, and again, this is getting very, very fine, I guess you would say, details. Because there's bigger problems, but when you're talking about building a house tight, right? We've talked about you found on the thermal cameras where the chatter of the blade has created this gap now between
and that allows moisture into the house.
I've always been curious, because wood doesn't all act the same. Every tree's different a little bit. So now, how many times have you seen where it was a tight corner, for instance, but then when the wood dries out, it shrinks, and that corner is not going to be quite as tight. Now, I know we're getting super detailed here. We're talking about 1/16 and 32nds of an inch, but in terms of being an efficient house, that's an airspace now.
Correct, and that's the reason you want to pay attention. Rough framing does not exist.
Right.
Okay, in today's society,
right.
If you can't cut plumb and square, then you're allowing air to come into that house. Right. And I've showed you some pictures. I sent you pictures during the work week where you've got jack studs in a window or a door, and they like an 1/8 inch getting up to it.
Yep.
Or the one next beside it likes a 1/4 inch getting up, or the cuts at an angle. So there is a formula out there for every 1/8 inch that you gap that tells you how much air is going to come into your house.
Right. Well, that's the cool thing then about these panels is they're made in a factory efficiently. You're not going to have that problem. And like you're saying, moisture is going to be less of an issue because these houses are going to go up in 4 to 5 days. So rather than waiting 3 or 4 weeks of rainy weather, you're putting it in a week of, even in rainy weather, you're getting it done in a short amount of time and getting it covered.
And it'll dry out more.
Right.
It'll dry out faster because it won't saturate the lumber.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's awesome.
And now I'm only speculating on this, but it sounds like to me that the lumber that comes into these yards are 2x4s and or 2x4s or 2x6s, depends on the altitude that you're building, in long lengths, and it's all cut on a computerized jig.
Right. So, and that goes back to the efficiency, right? I would imagine these companies are buying enough in bulk that if they needed, you know what I'm saying? Like if they need a 62-inch piece, then they could probably get 104-inch pieces that they can cut in half. You know, I did the math wrong. 100. You know what I'm saying? 124.
Yeah. But what they said is even if they have an 18-inch drop off a 2x4, they have a place in the house for
that they put that in. Yeah.
So they have less waste, and that's what makes it lead. Even your stairs, they can build the stairs for you.
Right.
You know.
I hadn't thought about that, and I mean that would be. You're talking about easy because stairs. Yeah, I mean, I know your experience. You can do this a lot better than I can. But to me, stairs, when I try to do anything with stairs, it's like an all-day event, just figuring out where to start. You know,
it doesn't make any difference how good you are. You know, a regular set of stairs is not too bad. Coming straight down. All right, or like that set of stairs I showed you that I built down in Burke County. Yeah, I had to scratch my head. Because the computer programmer that drew the winder in on the stairs actually made the stairs dangerous. Yeah. And we're moving furniture. But there you go again. If you start in a house and you start on the second floor, you go to the first floor. Yeah. Or even the basement, your steps are all supposed to be the same height, same width. Right. So we actually take it a little step further. And we want to make sure our decks are the same height. Mm-hmm. Step out of the house, step on your deck, and even your stairs that go to the ground are all the same. Right. And
that's my thing is like that. It would be so much easier if you could just you had a prefab staircase. I mean, I know they make like spiral stuff. I'm talking like if you had a wooden regular old staircase that was pre-made, you just pop it in place.
That's it.
Gosh, that would save so much time and headache.
Well, take 4 guys to move that set of stairs. But it's all glued together, and then you nail it, and it's done with.
Yep, that's awesome. Cool. Well, okay, we got just a couple minutes left. I am curious, like, what would be the advantages of these panel systems over an actual module where they're bringing in, one room at a time, or however you want to look at it, right?
Well, a modular is totally different. Okay, like we talked about, a modular is built in a factory. Right. Well, these are built in the factory too, but a modular home will spin as it goes down the line, and just like a mobile home. Mm-hmm. All right, the only difference is a mobile home might have 3-inch studs in it, where a modular home will have 2x6 studs. Right. All right, and it's controlled by HUD, which we've talked about that. There's a big difference between us framing and HUD framing. And we were talking off the air there before we started about R&L homes. Right. Brunswick County outlawed modular homes at one time. Tried to outlaw because of Oak Island down there. Yeah. So our R&L home said, we'll take your challenge on because we'll build a house that will stand 150-mile-an-hour winds. Let's see you do it out of stick.
That's cool.
And they had to take them over on a crane, on a barge. Yeah. And crane them on a barge, crane them off. Then they had all the engineers come in and look at it. And now that's the reason you have modular homes on Oak Island. Okay. My dad was part of that project.
That's cool.
And but R&L Homes starts with a home with a foundation with the plywood on it. They start stacking the walls on it. There's a steel strap that goes on and connects to the floor joist, that connects to the walls, that connects to the roof, then goes all the way across and connects on the other side. Right. We don't ever do that in a stick frame home. Right. Even the panelized system wouldn't. We do have steel straps, but nothing like that.
Well, okay, so why would Randy Blake choose one over a modular or panel system? Like, why would you choose one over the other?
Due to you can do whatever you want in a panelized system. Okay. A modular's limitations to width and stuff. Okay. All right. A modular home can go down the road at 14 feet wide. Right. All right. A panelized system's only 12 feet wide. Mm-hmm. And that's generally what they said your walls come in 12-foot lengths. Okay. It depends on how you break it up.
But even then, I mean, you could go. You put as many modules together as you want.
Correct. A stack of shacks. Yeah. We got a stack of shack over here behind Walmart. Yeah. That's what we always call them. But, I mean, there ain't nothing wrong with them. I mean, they come. There you go. There's your prefab units because they already got their plumbing. They already got their wiring.
Right.
Their design, and they got chases that run in that they can hook up and go to panel boxes and stuff.
Nice.
It just depends on what availability you have.
Right. I think it's great. I mean, it's cool. I like the idea of the panel systems. And to me, that's I love the ICFs. Like that to me, like that part of why I like it's the efficiency and the speed of it. So that's what I like about this too.
There again, there's a trade. You have to look at the trade-off versus labor versus material, what you're trying to accomplish.
Yep. It's still cool stuff, but no, thanks a lot. All right. That's pretty cool. You got sparked some stuff for me.
Well, good.
So, all right, man. Well, I guess we don't have next weekend will not be the breakfast. It'll be the weekend after.
After? Oh, the dinner this month. The Scotts will be back doing barbecue and brisket.
Sweet.
Then in May, I'll be doing steak night again.
Awesome. Love it. All right, we'll take it easy, and then we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to us, and Randy, we'll see you later, buddy.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to All About Home Construction on the podcast. We record this live every Saturday on AM 1450 and FM 96.5 WATA in Boone, North Carolina. You can become a supporter by supporting this with a small monthly donation, and that'll help sustain future episodes. You can do that for as little as 99 cents a month, and that'll go a long way to help our show. Do that, you get your name or your company name included in our advertisements. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.